Live. It's going to take a couple of minutes. I feel like we've done this before.
We've done one before, man, but it was a different subject.
No, I know we've done
Well,
one
this
before.
one.
Yeah,
This one.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It feels like we've already done it. Like
It's been pre-rehearsed.
pre-rehearsed. Yeah, it's like I'm a different person now. You're a
I
different
can
person.
feel that.
You're a different person now.
But the same as when we pre-rehearsed it, because you were already that person before you got there. And so was I.
Yeah. I'm digging the music.
Whose music is it? Where's it coming from? Your music.
I have it on here. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear the music. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Huh. All right. I'm going to cut the music and welcome our beloved brother back. You're down in New Zealand or Australia?
No, I'm in down under, bro. Tasmania.
Okay, Tasmania. Tasmania, yeah.
Yeah, the promised land.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. Only just got in with the COVID fiasco. Now I'm in quarantine for like 5 more nights, courtesy of the government. But it's okay. Part of it.
Yeah. So were you on the mainland?
Yeah, I went and visited my parents who live on the mainland with north of Sydney, and I took my 2 children with me, and we had a great time for 10 nights, and then everything went belly up in New South Wales while we were on holidays, and then Tasmania, being Tasmania, closed its borders because it's a sort of safe zone. So then I only just got back into the state before they like sort of cancelled all the flights and stuff. Like, we were lucky.
Wow.
It was desolate too. Walking through the airport, there was no one there. It was like a zombie apocalypse, bro. I was waiting for like either George A. Romero to jump out and start directing some zombies jumping out of the shops and shit, or the zombies themselves. Oh, it was crazy, mate. Everything was closed. It was nuts. I loved it.
And you got your 2 kids with you?
Yeah, my 2 kids are next door. They're living the dream. They're like, oh, for real? We had a holiday with the grandparents. Then we come back and we've got 2 weeks in here where we don't have to go to school. We get 3 luscious meals a day. Get to stay on our iPad and our telephone all day. And it's a win. It's a score, Dad. We were like, and the government's paying for it because we arrived in this like window of 24 hours where Tasmanian residents, the fee for quarantine was covered by the
Wow.
by the government. So we arrived in that period. So they're stoked, bro. Yeah, it's good. Good for them. It's not good for me. It's like a cell, but bigger.
Yeah, we just had an 18-year-old on, and it's just so interesting to actually sit there and have a conversation and see the zombie apocalypse through her eyes. It was amazing. I'm just, kind of laughing, picturing you and your kids running through, not running, but going through an airport that's desolate, through their eyes.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah, for them to see that, it's like, yeah, it'd be bizarre. For me, it was bizarre, but maybe for them it's normal or something. I don't know. Yeah. It's just really intriguing to me what the whole world's turned to.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Good to hear you, Todd.
So the theme this month is the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Not the what? I mean, we used to think about our past and not too comfortable terms, right? I mean, a lot of shadow work and zero pointing and inner child connection and things to help us figure out who we weren't But there's an element to the story that's really the best part of the whole thing, isn't it? And you can laugh at it, and you know you're getting some wisdom when you can finally start laughing at it, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's also the undercurrent of most like really popular TV shows and movies, isn't it? Like everyone loves coming out, like even in that Shawshank Redemption where the guy goes, where Morgan Freeman's narrating and he goes, Andy Dufresne, the only man I knew that walked through or crawled through so many yards of shit to come out smelling like roses on the other side. You know, because everyone loves that hero part.
Yeah.
So I don't see myself as much of a hero, but in that, I understand I'm part of this global healing at the moment that's to do with the transition out of the pity pit of victimization and not being enough into one of being okay as I am. And really embracing like what it is like to be a man, you know. So I did a few notes because the subject's just so vast, being a man, and I personally think there's so many factors involved that we don't often give credit to. You know, like there's the environmental factors and the societal factors that you grow up within. So subconsciously they may program me in my expression of what I think is a man and what isn't a man. And then there's like the examples of masculinity that I've been around. And they're like the ones I've been around are like a little bit, there's one that's submissive and beautiful in his own right. And the old school alignment of happy wife, happy life. And then I've been around another one that's been like, had accolades through physical domination. And that comes with that aggression to win. So to assimilate those into a healthy expression of masculinity, it's a bit of a challenge. Then I've come to realize that the friends I keep and the ones that are quite complementary are the ones that allow me to come into fullness and feel like I am really a man. But it hasn't come for a long time because for a long time I thought I was a boy. And I used to think that when I was in my boy psyche, my main quest was if I wanted to feel like a man, then it was through my genitals in the bedroom. And that was always like any addiction, it was temporary and futile at the end of the day. So then I branched out into community trying to understand what it was like to be a man. And in that, I did a lot of freeganism. I don't know if anyone knows what freeganism is, but there's a whole lot of coaches and personal development people that are out there trying to plug their stuff, and they offer you a free entree in the hope that you'll buy their main meal. So I've done like over 10 of those entrees. I'm full of entrees. And in those, they follow a general pattern to do with the hero's journey. They find out where you feel deficient in your life. And then they get you to picture where you want to be in your life. And then they offer the remedy for you to get where you want to be from where you are. And then they charge you a varying amount of money for it. And then you end up being a hero in your own journey, with someone alongside you coaching you and being the support network, which is okay. That works in its own right. So I had a lot of freaking experiences.
I like that. I like that word.
You know, yeah. So there's the other freegan that dumpster dives, but I'm not that sort of freegan. I'm like, my passion is gaining information. So I'm like, any chance that I get to gain more information about myself and how I function in relationship, then I'm totally all in. So in that, I've also been to several workshops, but because I'm frugal and run the pattern of being wise with my money, I often sit at the back of the workshop and I work in the engine room serving food and stuff. And then I bit the bullet about 4 years ago when I stumbled upon a guy called Justin Patrick Pearce, and he does a lot of work to do with relational dynamics and sexual empowerment, sacred intimacy. And he's like a bit like you, Todd, right? He's one of, I only know you and him, so much fucking masculinity and presence that your voice feels like, to me, like molten amber flowing down a riverbed of smooth pebbles. And it's like, I listen to it and go, oh, baby. You know, so I spent 4 years with tutelage from him and him overseeing this thing called Tribe Men's Community, which has now got its own website, but the calls are a bit, they've been put on hold a while. So I realised after this deep dive into myself that being a man is really about being a healthy expression of myself and then being peaceful in that. So that's been a struggle for me because I've been a person that's sensitive, and in my own sensitivity, I've been finding that I have a few tendencies, and they're similar. Like I found this reflection in a lot of communities and a lot of people that I actually feel comfortable around because I'm hanging around myself, right? And I'm sensitive. I'm sort of a pleasing personality. I'm perceptive. And with that sensitivity, my perception goes into the subtle realms. So in that, I've also believed the critics that I've encountered in my life more than the fans. So then that endorses subconsciously a psyche of not being enough. But with exposure to the right fans, people will get the right information going, mate, you're all right how you are. And I'm thinking, and Justin, my mentor, says, Omji, I know you and I can feel you, and your heart is so massive. It'd be a discredit to yourself if you weren't to show that in your everyday life. Because of my endorsement of the critics' opinion, I've sort of hid from the world and subdued myself into a numbness. And recently I thought, well, and that went through cycles, and in that numbness and lack of self-worth, I attracted people into my life in relationship that would further endorse my own lack of self-worth. And I thought, no wonder I don't accept myself. I'm creating non-acceptance externally. And I realized that basically there's just this universal masturbation going on where I'm just playing with myself in the form of everyone else. And the hero's journey to be truly masculine is to be as aware as possible in that universal masturbation, so I can create, first of all, healthy experience and expression, but also healthy reflection back at me. It's like from my inner core, there's a resonance that I like to express or feel comfortable expressing. And the more aware I am of attuning that to a healthier signal, then the feedback to myself will be healthier and comfortable. I also realize that there's two trajectories a person can follow. And if you go to the prequel of this call with Todd, Soulogy version 1 with Omji, then that talks about the first trajectory, what I'm really passionate about and what my purpose is on the planet. And that's self-transcendence. The self-transcendence is to do with experiencing the dualistic side of life to transcend the dualistic side of life and ultimately end in an experience of the non-dual. And you can get that information when I've got a whiteboard and I'm talking about Kundalini and unification with the divine. That's in the first version of this. But now we're in the sequel. The other trajectory of the hero's journey is self-improvement and embodiment. And that's where the work of this conscious masculine comes into it. How can I, as a person, be that embodiment of the dualistic energies that are in creation at play at any point in time? So I've done some research, and a lot of my appreciation of the sacred intimacy comes from being tutored by Justin Patrick Pearce, and also my own investigation into what it's like to truly be and embody some of the traits of a man. And some of the masculine traits, if you ask anyone, there's a whole lot of traits that come as being a man, and some of them are like strength, depth, being committed and ambitious, being purposeful, being still. So in that, what's the flip side of that? And where do the energies lie in my body for me to have a healthy expression? And what is the relationship going on? So there's three types of relationship, as far as I understand it. The first one is the relationship you have with the divine Godhead, whatever that part is, whether it's yourself in the most subtle form or whatever. But that's covered in Soulogy, Todd and Omji version 1. In version 2, we talk about the other two relationships, which are the relationship with yourself and how that's projected as a relationship with others. So what is relationship? According to the path that I follow, everything in creation is seen as a expression of the divine feminine. So everything in the dualistic experience has been appreciated as manifested energy, or called Shakti. So everything that I relate to as a person is a part of her. So I'm constantly in relation to her. And whether that's the creation in myself or the expression of life itself through another human, then that relationship with her is of paramount importance. So what does she bring? She brings, first of all, she brings a man into his heart, right? If I'm like in relationship, we can talk about the relationship, an intimate relationship with a woman. And my current partner, she's beautiful, man. She's everything I could wish for in a partner in regards to accepting of all of my niggling neuroses and everything that I am. She helps me after I've done all this work on accepting myself. She helps me accept myself as well. But she brings to the party, she brings the experience of, where are you at? Are you in your head? Come back to me. Here I am now in the moment. How does this feel for you? Her as a person, she's like the divine feminine. She's like flowing, creative, expressive, emotional, governed by the moon phases. She's up and down like the ocean, the waves and tides, and it's like, so sometimes I need to be the masculine energy within myself and allow me to express the space that holds that expression. And it comes from a dynamic of this inner pillar that between two people, because as a human we're energetic packets and we have these different expressions depending on, if we're in this Soulogy cone of silence, then the Soulogy people talk about the Merkaba. Could be like the Star of David, where the spiritual triangle comes down and the physical triangle comes up and it meets in the heart. So in that, how do I have a foundation at the base of my body and the spiritual involution of my own subtle essence to live a life of connection through my heart? So my mentor JPP talks about the three parts of the inner pillar. The inner pillar being, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's like Mount fucking Meru, mate. It's the part of existence that shoots from the bottom to the top, or from this side to that side, and is the core that sustains everything. It's the channel of the Kundalini. It's the thing that represented in the biggest spiritual gathering on the planet, where the mountain is entwined by a snake and there's demons and humans having a war over this snake. It's the core of our being. It's the subtle energy that shoots up our spine. How do we connect this with another human being? Let's bring it back to the embodiment process, where there's within the mind, there's something called presence. That presence is like, I'm pretty intense, right? So I can hold a conversation and I can pretty much guarantee by the end of the paragraph, we'll still be talking about the same subject that what we started on, exactly the same thing. There's also the presence that when the feminine dynamic, whether this relationship, the relationship with another person is whoever's holding the feminine energy at that point in time. It's not like the woman is the feminine and the male's the masculine. It's like sometimes the masculine, the male can be in his feminine and the female can be in the masculine. She can hold space for the emotions of the man. Yeah, but the presence in the mind allows a person to be still and allow and accept the full expression of the other person. And that's supposed to be easy. If you go to a workshop, you can be present, and that's pretty easy, says the person that's done like thousands of workshops, Justin Patrick Pierce. The other thing that's easy is the magnetism that comes through polarity. And like that's through the groin. And sometimes the sexual energy is compatible and sometimes it's not. So if you're in a dynamic where that magnetism's present, that's easy to create within a workshop. So that's the other end of the inner pillar. The mind is the presence, the groin is the magnetism and creates polarity. But in the middle is the emotional resonance. And that is the core of being a truly masculine embodiment of the human framework, because that's the hard part. The emotional connectivity with another person, that's where the gold is, the feelings, the vulnerability, the sensitivity, the conduciveness to softness, allowing my heart as a person to be shown freely. So how do I perpetuate an experience where I'm allowed to be emotionally connected and at times hold presence and space for the woman, but at other times connect through magnetism and fuck the life out of her? Because I'm allowed to. There's so much shame around sexuality in this culture, but if there's enough foundation through emotional connection, then the sexuality can go between this soft, smooth, emotional, intimate connection to this fast, furious, animalistic, unbridled fucking, and end in fulfillment for everyone. Because that's the range of dynamics as a human that I'm entitled to engage in. And if you listen to the teachings, women absolutely love it to be held, to be safe, to feel trust, to feel secure, and then to open into that safety where they can just give themselves freely. That's a beautiful thing. And that's where the key is to the inner pillar. in the heart. But that's the hard part, because being vulnerable and letting down the shield, that's where you get hurt. And then you got to suit up and risk it for the biscuit.
Risk it for the biscuit. This is a deep transparency, honesty, and I totally appreciate it. Totally, especially because I can relate to, and I can only say this: I am relating to the to me in this realm. Maybe outside this realm it's different, but the obviousness, the reality that it is her. Okay. And so the way that you talk about it, both literally and metaphorically, I totally relate to that. What I found interesting, because I have been on a journey of sacred sexuality within myself and with my beloved partner, I don't believe there's any more code that is more accurate than that non-verbalized code that comes through the energy or the experience of sacred sexuality. Now, having said that, and this is just my opinion, and I'm looking to grow just like you. And I only think this happens through people being honest, no matter what that is, without fear of judgment and just putting it out there. It's not a debate. No one has to be right. It's just it's an exploration that we share together, right? But what I find so interesting in the with the background, you know, with the preface of what you so eloquently spoke about in terms of it's all her. We're actually in the womb, okay, having this experience. It's all contained within that unlimited, beautiful, holy darkness. But there seems to be, to me, and I love that you're speaking from a man's perspective, an evolution of understanding, awareness, and experience that it is all her. And so I can relate to everything that you said, and then taking it to that degree of conscious potential that you described in intimacy as the example. You know, you can take that energetically, you can take it at the physical, and that range that you're talking about. And I've wandered and wandered through that scape. But the reality is set into me that it ain't about me having because I totally get it. I'm here, so I should be allowed to do this thing. I get that. Totally. Human is a hero. But at the same time, I feel like in this trajectory of this desire to grow, all of us, which is why we're here. There's also this scale or graduation of ascension that we are in essence aligning our free will with universal will, and universal will is her. So it's not about, and I'm not taking a shot at you at all, I'm just trying to grow with my brother. And that is, I don't think it's about, or at least it's coming into my awareness, it ain't about me fucking her. It's about her. And whatever she wants to do, I'm game. Because she's operating in this flow that's been shut down in her and in me. And I'm not talking about two people necessarily. I'm talking about, and as you were, micro and macro. And there is an association with your description. This is how I feel, in which is, I can experience anything I think I could have. But if I surrender, and as I surrender more and allow it to come to me versus me going to it, then whatever the hell I think I could have experienced and have experienced in my well-lived life, and I'm speaking now on a personal level, what she offers is far beyond anything I could imagine, to include, if there is alignment, universal alignment, to include in the rawest physical form of intimacy. She's capable of things I'm not even aware of. And so, well, and I've experienced this, and as a human, we're all taking this stuff in, but I think you really identified the field with your, you know, with the way you described what life is. It is her, and I am the lesser God. Now, am I bowing to her? What is her? Yes, in all forms, but here, right? Here first. It's a thought-provoking commentary that you just spoke, and I just had to speak my truth to you as well. And, God, I am so grateful for the last show, for this show, for Morgan setting this whole theme up, for what's coming out every single day. Every show's incredible, and it's all founded on an open, non-judgmental sharing. That is, it's like the fucking hero's journey in action, you know, to be able to have a conversation and
I think it's also
feel what people, feel what people are feeling, live through them. It's amazing. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me share that.
You're right, man. I love hearing your voice. And I love your vulnerability. And I love what you reflect about me to me. I don't think you've ever reflected anything that I'm uncomfortable about me to me either. So that's cool. That's a reason to like you even better. I really value what you say. But I also the path that I've chosen is the deepest tantric and yogic philosophy, and not tantric in the way of like neo tantra, where like you can become a warlock and refine your own energy to give women orgasms through the wall. Not like, even though there's really a lot of value in retention of semen and coming into the body, and there's all, from a masculine point of view, there is credit in doing exactly the opposite of what happens during the orgasm, to move from the animalistic, disconnected fucking to the heart connected, most emotional, sacred intimacy that a human can experience. And to do that, there's simple techniques which are the opposite of what we're trained and our nervous system has entrained itself to do during the orgasm, and that is tighten up, focus on the genitals, shorten breath, so if as a person on the quest of sacred sexuality, then to focus on the whole body at the same time as deepening the breath and relaxing all the muscles, then that works towards prolonging the experience of intimacy to bring fulfillment to both your partner and yourself. So there's also the deep sacred truth, and it doesn't matter whether you call it male or female or awareness and creation or whatever, but according to the philosophy of yoga, the pure awareness, or the substratum, which is the container of creation. So you've got the creator and you've got the created. And we're in this universal masturbation with the created. But the created is referred to as the feminine. So sometimes that feminine happens in me, like day 7 of my quarantine experience, where I got really emotional and like everything was affecting me at an intensified extent. But then the masculine part of me came in and goes, okay, well, you're allowed to have this experience and you can be as emotional as you want. So that happens dynamically within myself at the same time as externally with my partner. But not for one moment is there any perspective where everything that I am and everything that she is not a part of the feminine, according to that philosophy. It's not like I'm in a male body and I'm the masculine and you're in a female body and you're the feminine. I've never seen such exploitive manipulation of vulnerability as I've witnessed through that dialogue. It's like everyone's the feminine, everyone's the masculine, but we're all in the feminine expression of creation, if that makes sense. And in that expression of creation, there's a dualistic flow of energy, which is sometimes still and sometimes moving. So if you look at it, if I look at it subtly, life is always making love to itself. That's how anything happens, whether it's the proton and the electron rubbing up against each other to create heat or throw off sunlight, or, you know, when I have a cold shower, or I don't have cold showers, but, you know, whether I feel cold or whether it's day or night, that's all life in the feminine making love to itself for the experience of being human. In the hero's journey of being masculine, in a male body, how do I come back to, I don't want to be going around with the premise that it's all to do with ending in love, because I think personally love has been so misconstrued that I prefer, no one else has to agree with me, I don't care. I'm happy with my own interpretation with this one. But I think that it inevitably, the most peace that I can integrate as a man is through allowing and accepting the present moment and bringing that into my heart. So it could be seen as feeling love, but it's more of an allowance without judgment and an acceptance without imposition. So how do I, as a person on my own journey, accept and allow myself to be all that I am? There's the inevitable factors of my constitution and what I've been exposed to. So they allow me to be a pleasing personality, a soft, flexible man who refrains from rigidity. But then there's also the fact that I'm one of the sensitives, and the sensitives are changing the world, you know, a bit like yourself, you know. So the sensitives, they're soft, but with their softness and their sensitivity, they can perceive the subtle dimensions of creation. And they have access to their intuition. And they're mainly musicians or artists or philosophers that live on the fringe of society, because society has a different outlook on things to what the sensitives have. So how do I, as a sensitive person, accept and allow myself to be me? Because I'll always only ever be me. I'll never be something else or someone else other than who I am. So how do I go about becoming more aware and more able to embody the healthiest expression of myself possible? And that's by working out a few things. So first of all, I need to focus on what I want. That's a big one, because as a sensitive person, there's a chance that I've focused so much on pleasing other people that I don't know what pleases me. But once I focused on what I wanted, I knew what I could bring into my life to provide for fulfillment for myself. So understanding what I want, then I can create, through doing the work and the inner processes, I can create an attraction of like attracts like into my sphere, so the people that I interact with are more harmonious and reflective of my healthier attributes. Then I need to know what brings me joy and what's important to me. And once I know that, then I can refine some of the unhealthier traits within my own being. So the question is, how do I integrate peace within this paradox where there's constantly the duality of not being enough and being enough? And how do I manage judgment and ridicule and denigration and criticism when I'm exposed constantly to people that are so bombarded by media that I have to submerge myself into a society that's governed by comparison, consumption, and competition? How do I actually retrain my nervous system to become more aware? And that in itself is an art form. It's like a musician learning to play notes on an instrument. And then to play that instrument, I constantly risk failure. And it's fraught with danger and falling back into the habits of my past. So consciously, how do I reprogram my subconscious to be in a healthy acceptance and allowance of being myself? I think there's a couple of things that are paramount, and one is a support network. Have a support network in place, and that support network involves people that I trust and that I'm comfortable with. And when I'm vulnerable, they don't stomp on me, they come in and care for me. And the other thing is, I think that all the great teachers say it, that life ends in two things: In Sanskrit, those two things are called bhakti and seva. And bhakti is devotion to the Godhead. And like I said before, if that Godhead word confronts anyone or invalidates anyone, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it the most minuscule, subtle aspect of yourself. But devotion to that part of life that encapsulates everything. Because that makes the story not about you, it makes it about creation. And then, how do you best express that? The answer is through selfless service. When you work tirelessly towards the benefit of other people. So there you go, Todd. There's an hour spiel. Nah, just from my most vulnerable, deepest, passionate aspect. There's Omji's interpretation of what it takes to be a man. Acceptance and allowance and hard work, and keep turning up to do the work, because the work works, and the work's designed to reprogram my nervous system through failure and repetition and discipline to become comfortable and work towards the healthiest expression of myself that I can.
It's all about growth. I mean, you can't take that away from anybody, not even Hitler, no one that came to this realm in seriousness, in all seriousness. We can't see the whole yin and yang. We can only see the yin or the yang. So from a higher perspective, which we all have to own sooner or later, but all I'm trying to say is everybody showed up, and they showed up for one reason, and that's to expand. Whether we're quote unquote successful or not, or whatever, that's a whole other discussion. But it's going to take, in my opinion, people stepping forward. It's starting to happen. We're honored to be a part of it, and all of us, Soulogy, Morgan, me, all the people that make it. It's not even about a person. It's not about anything. It's just about why we're here, and it's at the very human level. There's a great value to being able to speak in an environment where there's no rocks being thrown. We're all just here to
do that.
Learn. Yeah.
You are tirelessly committed to selfless service to espouse knowledge. And whether that's like all these D's that they talk about, or just being a great human, you're organizing yourself to be interviewing some remarkable people constantly.
Well, I mean, it's a collaboration, no doubt. I mean, I don't set these interviews up. I struggle, just and really, I'm just one part of it. It's what I'm saying, obviously. But what you said, I don't know. It just seems to be part of what's happening, and as a small reflection of what's happening, I think, in all rights. And in COVID and last year, and the quarantines and all the stuff seems to have really been an impetus for a tremendous amount of self growth for people, and I've got to believe it's affected people all over the world. It's massive what's occurring, and it just seems like the transparency thing. I don't know how deep we have to go, but just the honesty of sharing a story like you've done today is so valuable. So valuable. It's a buffet within itself because there's different parts of it that'll enact code in people or reawaken code in people. Different,
couple of
for everyone.
couple of things, Todd. The first one is you're definitely a sensitive. I think you're a musician too. But what I found sensitives do is they find it hard to appreciate acknowledgement. So I understand that you're like one aspect of Soulogy.universe, but you're allowed to say thank you, bro.
You're right.
And you're allowed to take credit
I was
for the role that you play.
There's a bit of that. And, I think like everything, it's getting easier to accept and align with things. But I think really, you mentioned this in your own way, in your story. What it really gets down to, and you described this, and I can't go back to your words exactly, but there was definitely her, the creation itself. Then there was the me part of it, and how you said the other part of it. And to me, as we understand it, and of course, Soulogy is just a word. There's no doctrine. There's no dogma. It's just a one of many words for an energy, just like you talked about the Godhead. It's all the same, but it's our understanding that there is a Trinity energy, even like a triad base element in the new grid, as Morgan's channeled it, and others as well. And that it's based on this triad energy, which is what you came across in a part of your story when you were talking about how you see things, is that you're equally serving self, to thine own self be true, in equal measure serving the other, and in equal measure serving her, the Godhead, the all, in the thought, in an alignment of thought, words and or actions, which I try to simplify by just saying my free will with universal will. I try to, but yeah, I think that's what we're seeing and what we're all a part of, and I think it's far bigger based on this download I got today, which had me in tears, was far bigger than we think it is. Like anything carrying this type of energy, any person, any movement, any initiative is impacting our fellow brothers and sisters in this universe in ways that we can't even imagine. It's going to be the best part, I think, of the disclosure. It's going to be
the trilogy is
look at who we are, what we're capable of, and look at the things we took so seriously. So at the same time, we'll be expanding our power. We'll be laughing our asses off. It's been an incredible hour. I appreciate your honesty and transparency.
The trilogy is certainly complicit, Todd. It's like, because I'm a scientist and I'm physiologically focused, when I sit in my temple and do mantras, I do it to those three aspects of myself.
Yeah,
I do it, and I do it acknowledgement to the Godhead, which I see as pure awareness, and that part beyond the jewel. And then I do a mantra to everything in creation, which is the jewel. And then I do one to what I see acknowledges the link between the two. And that to me is Kundalini. So that's where the trilogy lies. And whether it's God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is way patriarchal and contrary to the transition into the matriarchal society, God is that non-jewel. The Son is the jewel, the human, and the Holy Spirit's the link between the two. There was someone If I've got a little bit more time. I don't have to run because I'm like in a cage, and it's cool. Well, it's a big cage, bro.
I got a few moments.
But if you got to run,
yeah, no, I have a conference. I have a conference call.
Yeah, you're always busy, man, doing this saver.
But if
anyone's got any questions, then they can ask. Or, oops, I don't have access to the questions myself.
Well, it's on 10 platforms. Though it's on 10 platforms, so they're all over. There really hasn't been any questions. There's been a lot of aligning comments and good comments.
I saw one question that said, "Do you trust her?" or something.
Do you trust her?
I thought, what context was that in? Todd needs to run.
Where do you see that? Is that the question?
No, that Todd needs to run is from Morgan. She's
telling
you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because we have a conference. We have to get.
You can't overcommit. You got to go.
Yeah, because I have to. After these shows too, I have to decompress for at least 10 or 15 minutes. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, sure, man.
Yeah, but hey. You, like I was saying, it was an honor having you on today. All blessings to you and your partner and all your initiatives and everything. And until the next time.
Thanks for the opportunity, man. It's it's wicked.
Yeah, it has been a bit wicked. I'm interested to see what's going to happen down there for informational purposes only. Not to get caught up in it or anything like that, but the whole thing in Australia, because the with the quarantine or the measures and all that, they seem to be the hot spot for it, and I just have a feeling we're going to see an amazing movement and transformation down there.
Yeah, so hopefully
it'll be cool. We'll catch up again. Yeah. You take care, brother.
I hope so.
Peace out, everybody.
Thanks for joining in. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Morgan, for lining it up.
Right on.
And Ivania, doing your sneaky stuff.